Hello, my name is MarcoSchito. I'm at UGenome, and today I'd like to talk to you about DNA to Health, the personalized genetic platform primarily for cardiovascular disease. Again, you can go to shop.dnatohealth.com. There, that's when you can access your dashboard, retrieve your genomic reports, and then review your reports. And we're going to go through that process, the later process of retrieving and reviewing your report, specifically for cardiovascular disease. So again, when you go to DNA to Health, shop.dnatohealth.com, you'll hit the dashboard icon on the top right-hand corner. And that will bring you to your dashboard where you can look for your DNA files, your reports. All the reports are only your reports or the profile. So in this example, you can see that I have two. I have one where I've uploaded my text file, another where I've actually submitted my DNA, and that's processing. And then I ordered a DNA kit for a friend of mine. And that's here as well, and that's processing. My reports, I currently have a bone health report, and that's ready. But this is where you can download your reports. Click and download. That's all it takes. Once you click and download, and in this case, I'm talking about cardiovascular disease and cardiovascular health, you'll get a cardiovascular report that is downloaded, and it looks something like this. As you go through it, there will be a table of contents where you'll have a summary, give you a little bit about your personalized information that is reviewed. So both the name, the sex at birth, the height and weight, which will impact your results, and provide an overview of the results, recommendations, at least an overview of your recommendation, high-level overview, and then some results in detail about your heart health, the brain vesicles, veins and other vesicles, heart rate, blood pressure, heart health genes, and then some cholesterol and lab markers to note. Then it goes into some additional recommendations, and especially a lot of the additional details, and then some next steps and things about lifestyle that you may want to change as a result of your genetic analysis. So for these reports, you'll see that they're broken down into a variety of different groups based on the protein of interest. So for heart health, as many of you may know, lipoprotein A has become more and more of interest in the medical community. This is a type of low density lipoprotein. It's made in the liver, but in many instances in the past, physicians have not evaluated their lipoprotein A. And the vast majority of it is because it's 90% genetic, and there's very little that you can do by treatment in order to reduce that. So without any ability to reduce it by adding a drug, it's been something that has not been evaluated routinely in the medical field. However, that is changing. There are more and more pharmaceutical companies that are exploring drugs that are maybe able to lower LPA levels. And as a result, there's been more and more interest to take a look at what LPA actually is and what your genetics behind that is. And this gives you a heads up as to whether you have some issues with LPA in your blood because of your genetics. And in this case, this gives you a percentile based on a number of genetic variants that we've been looking at. The predisposition that you'll have higher levels compared to everyone else is given a percentage. So you're at the 71st percentile in this example. The report will break down your top variants that are likely impacting that genetic predisposition. It's not going to be all of them, but these are the top ones. And so you can see here, there's several of them. And as a result, it generates what we call a polygenic risk score. That 71% is essentially our ability to identify your risk of actually contracting heart disease based on high amounts of LPA. It's calculated by comparing an individual's DNA to large data sets from genome-wide association studies, so-called GWASs. They identify variants, and they're associated with specific diseases, in this case, heart disease. And each variant is assigned a weight based on its contribution to heart disease. So these weights in this particular case are higher at the higher end. So LPA RS 412-67819 is a fairly significant genetic variant, and this person has the GG genotype, indicating that that's not the greatest variant to have. It's a homozygous variant that is associated with disease. But each one of these are either ones that will have a single variant allele, or that the alleles are ones that don't have an issue with results in higher LPA levels. So you have to take a look at all of this in combination together. And so once the weights are all summed up of the relevant variants, it produces this polygenic risk score. And that's what's given that 71% in this case. And again, it's expressed as a percentage. In some cases, we can also express this as a low, average, or high risk. This is not just the only way to do this. So there are polygenic risk scores, but there are some genes where it's very few variants are associated with a risk. Oftentimes, those are called monogenic. Typically, monogenic means one, but in some cases, we can have 2, 3, or in this case, 4 different variants that are associated with a particular cardiovascular event. And in this case, it's ApoB. It's a genetic predisposition associated with higher blood lipids. Again, each variant contributes to the disease risks, but there may be additional genes beyond just the ApoB that may increase or decrease. So we'd have to take a look at these other genes, whether that be ABCA1, LIPC, SOT1, or they may contribute to lower risk of cardiovascular disease, such as the low density lipoprotein receptor, or a few other genes such as the MLX, IPL reactivity genes for that. So taken together, what we take home is knowing your genotype, and that will allow you, first of all, to access your overall risk, the impact of your genetics on disease. One of the main issues for cardiovascular disease is your genetics. There's so much genetics that's behind it, and there's so much that we do know. So this was a great opportunity to be able to better understand your genetic predisposition to cardiovascular disease. Secondly, by knowing what your predisposition are, you can proactively monitor your health. We always recommend you discuss these results with your primary care physician, and because that many of those genetic results will impact your cholesterol and lab markers that you're probably already evaluating and your physician is already looking at. So if you know that you have higher ApoB levels, genetically, you may see those in your lab markers, and that also confirms a lot of the data that is coming to your way to be able to evaluate. Thirdly, we can also change your lifestyle to reduce those risks. And so with the recommendations overview, we provide some of that. And again, the higher the recommendation, the more weight that provides. So again, maintaining a healthy weight, aerobic exercise, strength training, walking, all of those things are really high on our list to be able for you to do in order to lower your risk. And then finally, identifying supplements to reduce that risk. So in some cases, there may be some supplements that you can incorporate, whether it's incorporating those within the foods that you're eating, such as fish or salmon for omega-3 fatty acids, or maybe even supplements if you're either allergic to fish or you don't like the taste of fish. And this helps with certain DNA risks that this particular report has identified: ApoB, coronary artery disease, blood lipids, platelet aggregation. So all of those are going to be helpful for you. So again, I hope this is informational. This provided some information to you. I'd like to thank you for following us. And you can also follow us on social media on either LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram. And if you have further questions, feel free to reach out to us at support@ugenome.io.